Bipo finally resolves to relocate and begins to listen to tales from others who have relocated earlier. He always knew that payment abroad could be hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly, unlike Nigeria, where wartime salaries were more common. He preferred the hourly system, which made it easy for the employee to change jobs as often as he wanted and for the employer to closely monitor their employees. It neutralized the Yoruba proverb, which is interpreted as whether an employer records gains or not, the employee will yet take home his full pay. This, he believed, was why these other countries have developed. He heard that one could earn between $150 to $250 per day and gather up to $2,400 per month. This is a substantial amount compared to the N160 that Nigerians earn. He also gathered that skilled work was also the best option for those relocating abroad. He learned that nurses, doctors, and other health workers have been migrating at an alarming rate. About 1,000 of the country's 3,000 doctors migrate annually. Graduates are also leaving the country through education visas. He also observed that some people use crooked means to get the resources needed. To Japa, he remembered Mr. who one of the staff at Stardom who took an N2 million loan from the school as cooperative and relocated abroad 2 days later, and one of the school S drivers who tried to sell the school S bus to pay for his son's college fees abroad. Solo was one of his colleagues at Stardom who had relocated to the UK with her husband about 6 months earlier. She reassured Bipo that his settling into the UK would be without stress since his wife was already there. She relates how most couples who migrate have to share the responsibilities. While one works, the other one studies. She also narrates how she and her husband had to sell everything and borrow $1 million to fund their trip. Most people relocate to the UK because of the opportunity for their children to enjoy quality education. Bipo's children, Nike and Kike, enjoyed free primary and secondary education and did not have to pay fees until Nike went to university. This is unlike the kids at Stardom who pay millions of naira for their children's education. Healthcare in the UK was also free, especially for children who enjoy mandatory regular checkups. However, the tales from abroad were not always so good. Jer is a young man who abandoned his banking job and burst into tears when he realized he had to care for an old couple in London. An accountant named Hope, who secured admission for a master's degree, relocated to the UK with his wife. His wife worked to fund his studies. However, after a few months, his wife decided to stop providing for him. All this made Bipo realize that people always had different results from life's intriguing tests. PG.17. He recalled a proverb from one of his former Doma co-tenants about how the sugarcane and the bitter leaf got different tastes from the same rain that nurtured them. There was also the question of bringing independence from Nigeria. While some are keen on sponsoring their relatives like Reek, who invited 2 of her sisters to the US, others are not ready to. Chapter 4. Bipo is in his room at Adeniyi Jones, Ikeja, Lagos, where Bipo receives a call from Mrs. Ignatius, the parent of a student, just as he is about to say his night prayers. He was not okay with the overly cordial relationship that Mrs. Ignatius was extending towards him. He always related to his students and staff with humor and compassion, but he did not appreciate being taken for granted just like Mrs. Ignatius was doing. Mrs. Ignatius's husband, Mr. Ignatius, who works as a manager in an oil firm, also decided to Japo with his family. He argued that he would not want his children to grow up in Nigeria, where the children of those who went abroad come to be their children as leaders and superiors. Mrs. Ignatius was in love with this idea and soon started learning tailoring and hairdressing so that she too could earn some money abroad. Mrs. Ignatius had quit her job as a clerical officer while her husband had closed up his clearing and forwarding side business as they prepared to relocate when something terrible happened. While processing their visa, a DNA test revealed that Mr. Ibe is not the father of one of their 3 children. Favor an SSS to girl at Stardom. This is the subject of Mrs. Ignatius' late-night call. Her husband had told them Mrs. Ignatius and Favor to leave the house. He was not sure how to respond to this situation. He was aware of the fact that some of these rich parents can be selfish and nasty. He is reminded of an incident that led to the sacking of Muraisero, who was the government teacher. One of his students, Bibi, had a dream about the government teacher. Bibi told her mother, Mrs. Liddell, that the government teacher appeared to her in her dream with his tribal mark. His tribal marks are so deep and prominent that the student nicknamed him Mr. Ola, a derogatory Yoruba name for a person with wild facial marks. Every time Bibi saw Muraisero, she became scared. The dreams continue until Mrs. Liddell goes to the school to file a complaint. Worried that they would lose Bibi and her siblings to another school, the management transferred Muraisero to Stardom Hub, the property wing of Stardom Group of Companies. Chapter 5. The MD chooses to take a walk rather than retreat to the private room in her office, as she always does. She walks towards a piece of land that Stardom had acquired 2 years ago, and that was 5 minutes away from the school's back gate. She discovers that the teachers and some other staff are using the land as a park instead of the park allotted to them within the school's premises. She is shocked by the number of big cars and buses that she sees in the car park. She immediately summons the principal and accountant to figure out if the teachers and staff are stealing from the show. All when the MD asks how the teachers and staff can afford the cars. The principal advises that they retreat to the office to discuss it. The principal reassures her that the school purse is fine and that the staff had gotten the money through the school as cooperative. The MD inquires further how much is in the account of the Stardom Cooperative Society that it could buy every fool the car of his or her choice. Her choice of words shocked both men. The following day, she called for a meeting of the board of directors where she was able to ascertain that the cooperative society had in 95 million, while over in 50 million had been loaned out. The MD shares her concern about how the staff can use that money to establish their school and steal their brand. She uses the simile, "It is like hanging a snake in the roof and going to bed." The board eventually reached a decision that no staff member could borrow more than in 250,000. That all loan requests had to be approved by the MD and that the management must be informed about the cooperative elections. Chapter 6. It is open day at Stardom schools. The teachers at Stardom look forward to gifts from parents that come in cash and kind, especially the class teachers. Some teachers also dread open day because parents often come with a lot of complaints. Murbipo recalls an episode where an English teacher, Mr. Frory, was sacked for a trivial complaint made by a parent, Mr. Guda. Murgudo was in the MD's office asking for Mr. Frory to be sacked. He recalls several other incidents where teachers were sacked. Some who were sacked were guilty and others were just victims of circumstance or even conspiracy. He always felt bad whenever he had to write a sack letter. He understands what can drive people to do things like this. He recalls an incident a long time ago when he was out of a job and had no savings. Murbipo was instructed to send for Murfafor, who was teaching a class. Murbipo was not okay with calling a teacher out of the class as it left the students idle. Murfori could have given the notes to the class prefect so that the students could continue copying the notes, but this practice has been discontinued because a parent had sued the school because of this. They had no other option than to leave the student idle. While they walked to the MD's office, the principal questioned Mr. Fafor to know why he was about to be sacked, but Murfafor was clueless as well. He then asked if he argued with Murguda, but Murfafor responded that Mr. Guda only walked into the class, checked his son's books and said nothing before he left abruptly. Bipo broke the news that he had been sacked, and Mr. Fafour left for the staff room, devastated. He went to the staff room to collect his personal items where his fellow teachers had heard the news. The teachers concluded that there was no job security in the establishment. At a meeting that occurred immediately after the MD revealed to the teacher why Mr. Fafour was fired. Gupta had discovered a grammatical error in his son's note. 8 as well as Jide comes early. This made him so angry that he threatened to withdraw his children from the school. She says that the sentence should read, 8 as well as Jide come early. The principal responded to the MD's fiery speech about Fafour's incompetence by saying that the sentence Fafour taught was correct. He said, when you use and, the verb that follows is come. But when you use as well as together with, alongside, etc., we fo for the singular verb with s. The clause is in the subjunctive mood and does not align with normal grammar rules. Not satisfied with the principal's explanation, she directed everyone to look it up on their phones. They all discover that both Fafour and the principal are right. The MD felt deflated having sacked a hard-working teacher, but Murata breaks the ice with a joke. Eventually, she reemploys Mr. Fafour. Chapter 7. Bipo recalls joining Stardom Schools after a disagreement that he had at his former school Bisway Group of School, located on the outskirts of Lagos. He tried to correct the grammatical error in the name. He pointed out that the school ought to be called Bisway Group of Schools. The director, Mr. E.G. Meko, thanked him mockingly, knowing fully well that he would not change the name. He claims that the name was divinely inspired and that no one was complaining about the name. Bipo tried to raise this issue countless times, but to no avail. Eventually, a couple of parents raised the same issue at one of the PTA meetings. The director calls into his office and accuses him of telling the parents about the error in the school's name. Bipo argues that he had done no such thing. Bipo eventually leaves the school after an incident that he considers to be ungodly occurs. One night, while in his room at Bisway staff quarters, he noticed something strange going on far in the distance. He discovered a group of 5 men. One of them was holding a cow by a leash. 2 men emerged from a pit and were leading the cow into the pit. Immediately, Bipo grabs his machete and heads out towards the men. He soon discovered that the director was among the group. Bipo protested that they should not be burying a cow while the director warned him to go away. When he did not listen, one of the men hit him on the head from behind and Bipo fell on his back. Before his accomplice can do some damage, the director quickly pacifies them and helps Bipo back up. He takes Bipo back to his room before he continues to complete his dark assignment. Bipo was shocked by the entire ordeal. He had heard tales of rituals carried out by school owners and patrons of other businesses. He recalled when he started Fruitful Future School with his colleague. The school he had built was flourishing for a while as the number of pupils had grown to over 70 in the 3rd session. One day, one of the parents, Mr. Ogo, walks into his office to suggest that he perform a rite that would supernaturally flood the school with pupils in no time. PG.38. Bipo chooses not to do this, and Murogo withdrew his child from the school afterwards. Soon, the school shut down after its neighborhood was deserted by those who could afford the school fees because its roads became bad. 10 years later, Bipo discovers that Mr. Ogo murdered a civil servant, a woman who had consulted him for a spiritual solution to her infertility. She had paid him in 9 million naira over a year and nothing happened. The woman asked for a refund and threatened to arrest him if he did not pay up. Eventually, he murdered her after inviting her to his home. Bipo thought of reporting the Bisway director, but he knew nothing would come of it. The next morning, Bipo got a call from the director to see him in his office. Before he went to the director's office, He moved his belongings out of his room and the staff room. The director apologized for the assault he suffered and claimed that the scene of the previous night was part of a special prayer for his late father, who had given him the land on which the school was built.